We are live and we are almost to chapter 50, 49. Yay! That is page 282 out of, I've said it so many times, I never remember numbers. 368. So, what is that, 80 pages? Hey, he said, maybe 80 pages to go. So let's read. It's a beautiful afternoon. I mean, it's overcast, but it's not hot. It's not cold. It's not muggy. So it's really nice. And work is going along. 2020 is almost done. Hopefully 2021 will be better. And we will be reading Pride and Prejudice. Not reading. We're reading it every day. We'll be watching Pride and Prejudice Thursday. I'm shooting for 11:30 Central Standard Time. If you're not sure how to do that, come over and join us on Discord. And we will, hey, Fareed, we will talk you through it. And Fareed, while you're there, let me explain. You go to, make sure you're in Chrome. If you know how to add extensions, look for Teleparty. You add Teleparty as an extension, and then it becomes an extension of like Netflix. You know, if you have Chromecast, it's the same sort of thing. And I can see it on my bar right now. And Siddharth's going to have to remind me here. I think I go into Discord. Let's see. I don't remember how, but I'll have to practice this. It's not important. Somehow or another, I host it. Oh, I accidentally opened it. So Discord, you're going to hear dinging around. But I have to host it in Discord. Hey, Haley, it's the whole gang. Then what it happens is we all sync in, like I give a party invitation link or something. You click the link, and then we're all synced into seeing the movie at the same time. And then we can communicate. We can talk to each other. Llama, I mean, really, it's a whole Discord group. Great. So that's how that'll work on Thursday. We practiced it once with Siddharth and I got it right the first time. Who knows if I'll get it right Thursday. But Thursday, Central Standard Time. For me, look at your time now. It's 2:48. So look at your time, and that's the difference between you and I. I'm in Central Standard Time in Louisiana. And some of you, Llama, I know you're like, 8 hours ahead of me. I've just opened up Discord and I'm closing it now. Sorry about that. It needed to update anyway, so it's good I did it. But between now and Thursday, go ahead and try and add Teleparty. Again, it's a link. Let me see if I can find the link for the extension. You have to go to the play, not the play place, but here is the extension. Please open a video on Netflix. Okay, so I would have to go to Netflix first, and then I can click the Teleparty to make it work. So I'm looking forward to that for all of us. Now I've lost us. Let me find out where we are. That's not us. There's the live button. There we are. Cadet Penguin. So some of y'all are on the East Coast. Some of you are in Europe. Some of you are in the Middle East. Some of you are in India. Some of you are on the West Coast. So Central Standard Time is the time I'm talking about. So my time, 11:30. Figure out if now it's 2:49. Figure out the time difference between us, and then you'll know what time to come on. If you're in Discord, which you have to be to do this, I'll give maybe a 30-minute warning to say I'm trying to set it up now so that you can be prepared for it. And then we can make comments, bring the popcorn. Who's going to bring the popcorn? I'm not going to eat popcorn at 11:30 in the morning. So let me know if you're having any troubles, but go ahead and try and join Discord now. Siddharth, that's your cue to drop a link in for Discord. Otherwise, I'll put it in on the comments when I'm done. Okay, so will we have it read by Thursday? Today's Tuesday. No, I doubt we won't have it finished, but some of y'all have probably figured out how it's going to end. Chapter 49. Roman numerals get me every time. So let's see what's happening. We've got, remember, Lydia ran off with Wickham. They're trying to find her. They assume she's in London. Mr. Bennet's gone, but it seems like he's coming back. Yeah, 11:30 a.m. I'm not going to do it 11:30 at night because that is New Year's Eve night, and I'm going to go over to some friends for that. Sorry. I figured y'all would want to do something New Year's Eve night. So 11:30 a.m. Good point for read. I'm off that day, so I figured I'd have time. I don't have to do anything until the evening. And what better way to spend the last day of the year than with you guys? In Discord, Lama, I don't know if it was you or the new Susan, I think, came in and told us about a new guy, Peter reads books. But it turns out he's like a pretty well-known YouTube. Like he follows YouTube drama and talks about it. So he doesn't read books. He has a reading club and he has a reading discussion. So if you guys, and he's an author, he's a published author. So that might be somebody fun for you to follow him. I went down that rabbit hole today, learning more about who he is, his Instagram, his Twitter, all that, because I'm always curious. He follows Trisha Paytas and Jeffree Star and Shane. I don't remember Shane's last name. I don't follow them, but I'm aware of them. Trisha Paytas just got engaged. A lot of drama with that. So he kind of follows all that pop culture. So flavored popcorn sounds good. It does sound good. But I probably won't be eating popcorn I don't like popcorn that much, oddly. So I probably won't be watching the movie eating popcorn. I'll probably just snuggle up on my sofa, cast it on my TV. No, it'll have to be on my laptop, won't it? And text away what I think about things as we go. All right, enough chat. That's 7 minutes in. Let's see. I do have Twitter, but it has nothing to do with Best Tutor Friend. I just kept it for politics. Now that I work for the state, I'm not allowed to make any political commentary. So I keep it just to get angry, I think, more than anything. No, to follow news stories and things like that. I actually learned about Twitter at a school professional development. They said for teachers, it's a really great way to stay in touch with what's going on in the world. And it's a really good resource. So I started following people then. And Cadet, I always forget what you've read, what book you've read. Killen Gerard, hello. I was worried. Well, yeah, you have to be really interested in politics. That's pretty much all it's for, Twitter. But it keeps up with news and things like that. Probably if you follow pop people, then it keeps up with them. I'm just not a very pop kind of. In fact, I saw in the news something about Jessie J having Meniere's disease, which is not this serious disease. It's an ear. I've actually had it. It's where you've got these little balls in your ear that help you with balance, and they get out of whack, and you have to do this crazy kind of chiropractic technique, and eventually it gets better. But I didn't know who she was, so I had to go to Twitter and figure out who she was. A great holiday. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad y'all are having great holidays. I'm glad that so many people have time to chat with us. Let's read. 2 days after Mr. Bennet's return, as Jane and Elizabeth were walking together in shrubbery behind the house, they saw the housekeeper coming towards them, and, concluding that she came to call them to their mother, went forward to meet her. But instead of the expected summons, when they approached her, she said to Miss Bennet, "I beg your pardon, madam, for interrupting you, but I was in hopes you might have got some news from town. So I took the liberty of coming to ask." "What do you mean, Hill? We have heard nothing from town." "Dear madam," cried Mrs. Hill in great astonishment, "don't you know there is an express come for master for Mr. Gardiner? He has been there this half hour, and master has had a letter." So the servants know before the girls do. Away ran the girls, too eager to get in to have time for speech. They ran through the vestibule into the breakfast room, from thence to the library. Their father was in neither, and they were on the point of seeking him upstairs with their mother when they were met by a butler who said, "If you're looking for my master, ma'am, he's walking towards the little copse, which is an outdoor area." Upon this information, they instantly passed through the hall once more and ran across the lawn after their father, who was deliberately pursuing his way towards a small wood on the one side of the paddock. Jane, who was not so light nor so much in the habit of running as Elizabeth, soon lagged behind, while her sister, panting for breath, came up with them and eagerly cried out, "Oh, Papa, what news? Have you heard from my uncle?" "Yes, I've had a letter from him by express." "Well, and what news does it bring, good or bad?" "What is there of good to be expected?" said he, taking the letter from his pocket. "But perhaps you would like to read it." Elizabeth impatiently caught it from his hand. Jane now came up. "Read it aloud," said their father, "for I hardly know myself what it's about. Gracechurch Street, Monday, August 2nd. What was a typo? Oh, there's all kinds of stuff going on. Hello. Hi. Hi, Maya. Hi, Jennifer. Hi, Haley. What would you like help with? Oh, K Island. K Island. When you came on, I knew that I mispronounced it. Kylan. Kylan. Oh, not K. Kylan. That's it. Kylan. I don't know why. Like Kyle. Kylan. I do this every time and I forget every time. So I'm so sorry. And I'm glad you correct me every time. YouTube may correct you. That's nice. Wow, it's come by quickly. It's going. I'm almost all into hell. Help. Oh, help. Hello is what you meant to say. I gotcha. Kylan, I lost Maya. Glad to see you on here. Galia Al-Mishri. I'm trying to say hi. Angeli Ramos. That's a new name for me. Thousand Splendid Suns. Isn't it a great book? Galia. Jennifer, you're welcome. Day's going well. Maya, how are you? We're all good. I love seeing people come back. Toes Daddy. Hi. Aren't you funny name? Long time no see. It's been what, 2 episodes or 2 versions? Where are you from? Galia aren't you the one that was from Canada too? You guys chatted last time, I think. Welcome to live stream. Oh, from Kuwait. Well, that's not Canada, is it? So we've got people from Lebanon. We've got people from Canada. We've got now from Kuwait. We've got people from India. I don't know if we have any of our Indian people. Well, yay, Anjali. I'm so glad to have you. And Toes Daddy's going to tell us where she is from. I assume Syria. Well, I knew that, Fareed. So I was like, oh, Syria, but then it was you, Fareed. So I didn't look closely enough. I love finding out from all over the world. I would see India in the house. Yay. Toes Daddy from Africa. I've been to North Africa, but that's it. Just one country. Toes Daddy, Africa is a continent. I tell my students, my American students are always so, makes me embarrassed. They're like, Africa's a country. No, Africa's a continent. So of the hundreds of countries in Africa, Toes Daddy, do you feel willing to share with us the country you're from? Oh, Memphis. Kylan. I know Nashville was where the bombing was, right? Did you have anybody impacted in that? Phasia instead of Fareed. Florida, my neighbor. We have a person from every continent. I don't think we have an Australian yet. And we don't have a South American yet. I don't think. I mean, we used to have a Brazilian. I don't know where he went. So I'm going to keep reading. We have a lot of activity going on today. Let's just see. Let's just see how many people. Yeah, lots of people chatting. I can see who's all online. No one did die in the bombing. Well, no, the man who blew the van up. It was a suicide. I mean, he had to know he was going to die in it, so surely it was a suicide. But we don't know his motive, if there ever can be an explanation for that. All right, so here is the letter that they just received. My dear brother, at last I'm able to send some tidings of my niece, and as such, upon the whole, I hope will give you satisfaction. Soon after you left me on Saturday, I was fortunate enough to find out in what part of London they were. The particulars I reserve till we meet. It is enough to know they are discovered. I have seen them both. Then it is as I always hoped, cried Jane. They are married. Elizabeth read on. I have seen them both. They are not married, nor can I find there was any intention of being so. But if you're willing to perform the engagements which I have ventured to make on your side, I hope it will not be long before they are. All that is required of you is to assure to your daughter by settlement her equal share of the £5,000 secured among your children after the decease of yourself and my sister, and moreover to enter into an engagement of allowing her, during your life, £100 per annum. These are conditions which, considering everything, I had no hesitation in complying with. So they're dealing. We'll get married if you give us this money. As far as I thought myself privileged for you, I shall send this by express, that no time may be lost in bringing me your answer. You will easily comprehend from these particulars that Mr. Wickham's circumstances are not so helpless as they are generally believed to be. The world has been deceived in that respect, and I'm happy to say there will be some little money, even when all his debts are discharged, to settle on my niece, in addition to her own fortune. If, as I conclude will be the case, you send me full powers to act in your name throughout the whole of this business, I will immediately give directions to Hackerston for preparing a proper settlement. There will not be the smallest occasion for your coming to town again. Therefore, stay quietly in Longbourn and depend on diligence and care. Send back your answer as soon as you can, and be careful to write explicitly. We have judged it best that my niece should be married from this house, of which I hope you will approve. She comes to us today. I shall write again as soon as anything more is determined on. Yours, etc., Edward Gardiner. Is it possible, cried Elizabeth when she had finished, can it be possible that he will marry her? Wickham is not so undeserving then as we have thought him, said her sister. My dear father, I congratulate you. So even though there's scandal, if they get married, it all seems to work it out. There's been lots of writing. Kylan, gladly know when I know good. A lot of people from all over the world, yes. Haley, totally awesome. I agree. I do too. I jump in and say I love that people from all over the world are together. Maya, it's so fun. It is. And talk to each other, exchange. Well, at Discord you can, and you can share things about your culture and your how you're going to celebrate the new year, because that is a non-religious holiday that typically is celebrated. Now, Muslims have a different Arabic calendar, but they still, most countries tend to celebrate New Year together. China has a different New Year. That's usually in February, but we don't have anybody from China. India, do you celebrate this New Year's Day, or do you follow a different calendar? Melina Sargasyan, sorry for mispronouncing. Hi. And where I am, Galia, it is 3:04 p.m., 1500. So it's the afternoon. And I lost my place. Oh, my dear father, she cried, come back and write immediately. Consider how important every moment in such a case. Let me write it for you, said Jane, if you dislike the trouble yourself. I dislike it very much, he replied, but it must be done. And so saying, he turned back with them and walked towards the house. And may I ask, said Elizabeth, but the terms, I suppose, must be complied with. complied with. I'm only ashamed of him asking so little. And they must marry. Yeah, he is such a man. Yes, yes, they must marry. There's nothing else to be done. But there are two things that I want very much to know. One is how much money your uncle has laid down to bring it about. And the other, how am I ever to pay him? Money? My uncle, cried Jane. What do you mean, sir? I mean that no man in his senses would marry Lydia on so slight a temptation as 100 a year during my life and 50 after I am gone. That is very true, said Elizabeth, though it had not occurred to me before. His debts to be discharged and something still to remain. Oh, it must be my uncle's doing. Generous, good man. I'm afraid he was distressed himself. A small sum could not do all this. No, said her father. Wickham's a fool if he takes her with a farthing less than 10,000 pounds. I should be sorry to think so ill of him in the very beginning of our relationship. 10,000 pounds, heaven forbid. How is half such a sum to be repaid? Mr. Bennet made no answer, and each of them, deep in thought, continued silent till they reached the house. Their father then went to the library to write, and the girls walked into the breakfast room. And they are really to be married? Cried Elizabeth, as soon as they were by themselves. How strange this is. For this, we are so thankful that they should marry, small as their chance of happiness and wretched as his character. We are forced to rejoice. Lydia. I comfort myself with thinking, replied Jane, that he certainly would not marry Lydia if he had not had a real regard for her, though our kind uncle has done something towards clearing him. I cannot believe that 10,000 pounds or anything like it has been advanced. He has children of his own and may have more. How could he spare to half 10,000 pounds? So they believe that more money was exchanged, but they can't believe that the uncle could have afforded to do it. So they're trying to figure out, how did this come about? Almost 4 in the afternoon where Maya is. So she's on the East Coast. 2:06 where I live. Who's only, what is that, Central Time, Haley? I forget where you live. I didn't know you were only an hour behind me. 12:06 in my country. Oh, AM ahead of me. Gotcha. Not me. Maya, you speak too. I'm embarrassed. I can say assalamu alaikum, kif halik. I can say bonjour, ça va? I can say hey do, hermerdu. I can say, so that was Arabic. Let's see, my Farsi. Halat shama chetere is how are you? I'm saying how are you in all the languages I can. Ni hao ma in Chinese. So I've done Swedish, Farsi, Arabic, Chinese, French. Bom dia, tudo bem? Portuguese. So, Ana, oh gosh, Galia, listen to my bad Arabic. Ana shwaya teki Arabi. Shwaya teki Arabi, huh? Terrible. I can't get it too well. Armenian, Farid, you told me that, and no, I don't speak. I have had Armenian friends, but they never taught me anything. So, shwaya, 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 shwaya. I love the word shwaya. And I can do what, nin. I always forget 3. I can do Hamza, Thalminia, Tessa, and then I forget 10. I don't have all the numbers. Isn't that crazy? I know some of the numbers, but I don't. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. French, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's Farsi. Oh, and I forgot my Swedish, and I went to school for Swedish. And, well, the Arabic that I know is North African. It's in Tunisia. So I have a lot of Tunisian accent. It's got a French there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I know a little Spanish. So, hola, ¿cómo está? That's about it. Portuguese, I knew more because my son's in Brazil. We should all try and learn languages. We should make this a language learning channel where we all come on and speak to each other in different languages. That would be crazy, wouldn't it? All right, so let's see what happens in this last bit. How do they get the money is the question. If we're able to learn what Wickham's debts have been, said Elizabeth, and how much is settled on his side on our sister, we shall exactly know what Mr. Gardiner has done for them, because Wickham has not sixpence of his own. The kindness of my uncle and aunt can never be requited or paid. They're taking her home and returned, I guess. And if you've heard of unrequited love, it's love that's not returned. Went to Armenian school for a while. That's so sweet. I love when people have been raised in their own culture. My kids, I tried to teach Farsi, but I didn't know enough of it. And their dad was always like speaking English to them because he wanted to learn more English. French, I think, is French and Spanish. Once you get one of them, you can get them on. Tina, it's been a while since I've seen you. Icelandic, when I see it, it reminds me of the Swedish that I could read, but I don't think I think there are similarities, but I don't think there are very many words that are the same. We must endeavor to forget that all that has passed on either side, said Jane. I hope and trust they will be happy. His consenting to marry her is a proof, I will believe, that he has come to a right way of thinking. Their mutual affection will steady them, and I flatter myself they will settle so quietly and live in so rational a manner as may in time make their past imprudence forgotten. Jane is always optimistic. You're in college now. Congratulations on that. Caper is Kelly. She's one of my dear subscribers. Yay. Jenna, how are you liking college? How is everything I've missed all my followers from Iceland. Y'all made me very interested in hearing more about Iceland, and then we're all gone. Haley's one of my few college. I always forget because so many are in high school, in college too. So, and we've got Kelly's an adult, and I don't know the rest of you. So Jane's always optimistic. Their conduct has been such, replied Elizabeth, as neither you nor I nor anybody can ever forget. It is useless to talk of it. It now occurred to the girls that their mother was in all likelihood perfectly ignorant of what had happened. They went to the library, therefore, and asked their father whether he would not wish them to make it known to her. He was writing, and without raising his hand, coolly replied, just as you please. May we take my uncle's letter to read to her? Take whatever you like and get away. Elizabeth took the letter from his writing table, and they went upstairs together. Mary and Kitty were both with Mrs. Bennet. One communication would therefore do for all. After a slight preparation for good news, the letter was read aloud. Mrs. Bennet could hardly contain herself. As soon as Jane had read Mr. Gardiner's hope of Lydia's being soon married, her joy burst forth, and every following sentence added to its exuberance. She was now in an irritation as violent from delight as she had ever been fidgety from alarm and vexation. To know that her daughter would be married was enough. She was disturbed by no fear for her felicity, nor humbled by any remembrance of her misconduct. So all's well that ends well. My dear, dear Lydia, she cried, this is delightful indeed. She will be married. I shall see her again. She'll be married at 16. My good, kind brother. I knew how it would be. I knew he would manage everything. How I longed to see her and to see dear Wickham too. But the clothes, the wedding clothes. I will write to my sister Gardiner about them directly. Lizzie, my dear, run down to your father and ask him how much he will give her. Stay, I will go myself. Ring the bell, Kitty, for Hill. I will put on my things in a moment. My dear, dear Lydia, how merry we shall be together when we meet. She's forgotten everything. Her eldest daughter endeavored to give some relief to the violence of these transports by leading her thoughts to the obligations which Mr. Gardiner's behavior laid them all under. For we must attribute this happy conclusion, she added, in a great measure to his kindness. We are persuaded that he has pledged himself to assist Mr. Wickham with money. Well, cried her mother, it is all very right. Who should do it but her own uncle? If he had not had a family of his own, I and my children must have had all his money, you know. And it is the first time we've ever had anything from him except a few presents. So she doesn't feel any guilt about it. She's like, yeah, he's my brother. He should take care of us. Well, let's see, Tina. Version, Versluna school. School is school in Swedish. Verzuna, Vers, Verslunar School Island. It means the Commercial College of Iceland. That's great. Taking classes on Zoom. That's what my daughter's been doing too. I don't know if it's actually, and my brother's been teaching on Zoom. I don't know if my daughter's actually on Zoom, but it's all online stuff. College, that is just watching y'all's conversation because I'm nosy. I taught on University of Phoenix online and did not love teaching online because I can't see, just like now, I can't see your faces, so I can't see if you're lost or if you're interested. And I think that's such an important, you need feedback as an educator. You need to know if kids are getting it, if they're interested in it, if they want to know more, if you've lost them and you need to move on. So Kylan, they really are so nice. It's a great group of people. And if you want to come join us on Discord for more discussion, it's a great, Tina, I actually had COVID. I'm still taking medicine, but the doctor said I'm not contagious anymore, so I can go out. But it's, it knocked me for a loop. I was out for a good week. So it was like a very bad flu. And it hits you like at the end of this, I'll be tired. And I have still a lot of head. You can hear, I listened to my reading yesterday. I can hear it still in my head. And when I take my glasses off, you can see that my eyes, my sinuses are still feeling it. So 12 more chapters, Sid. Let's see. Next chapter's slow. I'm only 32 minutes. I may keep reading this time because I've chatted a lot. I think it's really important. Belonging. I'm following up on Haley's comment about we try to make people feel welcome. As an educator, I really believe that feeling welcome is how we learn, that you need to be somewhere where you matter and your opinion matters and you count and you're cared about. And so it's really important to be in this environment that we create a friendly, even a lot of people are like, oh, it's fake. I don't like the BS, but being polite and being kind, even if it's fake, is just a nice feeling. Now, once you leave, if I talk crap about you, that's not acceptable. But if I say, oh, I'm glad you're here, I really am glad you're here because I would be reading to myself if you weren't. And I really look forward to hearing your stories. The hard part of this environment is there are people that come that I get attached to, then they don't come back anymore. I'm not angry at them for that. It's just they go on with their lives. It's a cyber world. It's not real. I realize that. But I do legitimately care about what happens to y'all. I like hearing about your lives, what languages you speak, what books you're reading, what classes you're taking, what country you're from, how you're celebrating different holidays. So, been home almost a year now. Well, Kylan, I'm glad you're more vocal because that makes me feel like, and Tina was the same. She and her group, Tina, what was the book? I think it was To Kill a Mockingbird that you guys, a whole bunch of students came and would come in from Iceland. It was really fun to hear about Iceland and know that there was a good representation of it. But I love knowing you guys come regularly. And again, Sid, if you have the chance, can you drop the link for Discord? Again, if you can't, I can do it at the end. So speaking of the end of this chapter, My dear Jane, I'm in such a flutter that I'm sure I can't write, so I will dictate and you write for me. We will settle with your father about the money afterward, but the thing should be ordered immediately. She was then proceeding to all the particulars of calico, a type of fabric, a cotton fabric, muslin, and cambric, and would shortly have, these are all different kinds of fabrics to make her clothes with, and would shortly have dictated some very plentiful orders, had not Jane, though with some difficulty, persuaded her to wait till her father was at leisure to be consulted. One day's delay, she observed, would be of small importance, and her mother was too happy to be quite so obstinate as usual. Other schemes, too, came into her head. I will go to Meryton, said she, as soon as I'm dressed, and tell the good news to my sister Phillips. And as I come back, I can call on Lady Lucas and Mrs. Long. Kitty, run down and order the carriage. An airing would do me a great deal of good, I'm sure. Girls, can I do anything for you in Meryton? Oh, here comes Hill. My dear Hill, have you heard the good news? Miss Lydia is going to be married, and you shall have a bowl of punch to make merry at the wedding. Mrs. Hill began instantly to express her joy. Elizabeth received her congratulations among the rest, and then, sick of this folly, took refuge in her own room, that she might think with freedom. Poor Lydia's situation must, at best, be bad enough that it was no worse. She had need to be thankful. She felt it so, and though in looking forward, neither rational happiness nor worldly prosperity could be justly expected for her sister. In looking back to what she had feared only 2 hours ago, she felt all the advantages of what they had gained. Her sister didn't really gain that much, but they got their reputation back. Kylan, oh, we said Discord. Thank you, Sid. You're so sweet. The Salem witch trials, Crucible. That's right. The Crucible. I helped you remembered. Oh, I didn't see the autocorrect. Let's go back. And you helped us a lot. Oh, yeah. When you try and type in the second language, I know. It was Mockingbird. So I did remember. Discord said thank you. Kylan, sometimes I'm not as vocal when I watch. Other YouTubers or just in general. We would love, we're up to 50 people in Discord, so we do chat over there. And there are people in Discord that don't come in here. The Crucible, yeah, love the play. Thanks for the link. And again, thank you, Sid. I appreciate it. The Crucible with this channel as well. Aw, it was our first together. See how everybody's so nice? That's so great. Don't you want to be in a world where people are nice? I don't understand why it's so cool to be an ass. I've never understood that. Like to come on here and make smart alecky comments and try and make inappropriate, dirty jokes. And I don't get it. I guess maybe I'm old. I like nice people. I like to be around nice people. I like people to say, hey, I'm glad you're here. Because I like to hear that. I don't like to hear unkind things about me. Like when people take the time to tell me they don't like my channel. I remember one time somebody came and was like, your hands look fat. Okay, my hands look fat. Why do you need to say something mean? Does it make you feel better? This is what I've never understood about people. Macbeth, one of my favorite Shakespeare's. I need to read more Shakespeare. I just never have. Haley, you're not a rude person. That's why I don't think you can understand why. I mean, I think if you're not rude, you don't get it. And my son, my youngest son, is really a little bit of a smart aleck, and I have to remind him, don't be like that around me. I don't like it. And he always is kind of sarcastic, and I just don't love it. Guys, try reading Sprint if you feel demotivated to read. Nobody's really been doing the reading Sprint lately, Sid. I've tried a couple times to get people to jump in, but it is a channel on our Discord. But we need to do a better job of everybody sitting down and reading for a little bit. I've been so preoccupied with trying to get this book in. So what do you guys think? It's 40 minutes, but I didn't read that much. It would probably take me 15 minutes to read the next chapter. So let's read chapter 50 because I don't have anything else to do. Let me see if my boss has written anything. Sometimes that happens and I need to. Yeah, there is something. Yeah, nothing I need to do though. And my daughter is going to Austin, so she's writing me about that. I'm getting a lot of junk text. Have y'all been getting those a lot lately? Junk texts that tell you won this or that, and you really didn't win anything. Don't click on the link. Jenna, I'm so glad that you were. It is late there, I know. Thank you for joining us. A bad confession. I've never addressed you by your name. Oh, my name's Rachel. So my kids call me Rachy Pachy. Lama, I know it's late for you too. So goodbye to those that are leaving. Thank you for joining us. And for Reed, what did you read in grade 11? I lost track of it. Tina, so good to see you. I'm glad. People come off as rude and they're not intentional. Oh, well, yeah, I get that. I think sometimes on texting, it can come across as rude. But I mean, when they say things like, you're boring, get out of here. I mean, that's rude. Although maybe I am boring. But then just hang up. Why do you need to tell me I'm boring? Just don't watch. Don't subscribe. You know? That's what I don't understand. All right, Sid. He's going to be back. And let me read. It's getting a little warm out here in the sun. Can you imagine where y'all are? It's getting like my sweater's a little hot. It's getting a little warm. Sorry to tell y'all that, but it's true. Mr. Bennet had very often wished before this period of his life that instead of spending his whole income, he had laid by an annual sum for the better provision of his children and of his wife, if she survived him. He now wished it more than ever. Had he done his duty in that respect, Lydia need not have been indebted to her uncle for whatever of honor or credit could now be purchased for her. The satisfaction of prevailing on one of the most worthless young men in Great Britain to be her husband might have been rested in its proper place. He was seriously concerned that a cause of so little advantage to anyone should be forwarded at the sole expense of his brother-in-law, and he was determined, if possible, to find out the extent of his assistance and to discharge the obligation as soon as he could. When first Mr. Bennet had married, economy was held to be perfectly useless, for, of course, they were to have a son. This son was to join in cutting off the entail as soon as he should be of age, and the widow and younger children would be by that means be provided for. 5 daughters successfully entered the world, but yet the son was to come. And Mrs. Bennet, for many years after Lydia's birth, had been certain that he would. This event had at last been despaired of, but it was then too late to be saving. So he didn't save early on because he was sure he'd have a son and the money would the inheritance would come. But he never had a son. And by the time they realized they weren't going to have a son, it was too late to start saving. Mrs. Bennet had no turn for economy, and her husband's love of independence had alone prevented their exceeding their income. So they weren't good with money. £5,000 was settled by marriage articles on Mrs. Bennet and the children, but in what proportions it should be divided amongst the latter depended on the will of the parents. This was one point, with regard to Lydia at least, which was now to be settled. Mr. Bennet could have no hesitation in acceding to the proposal before him in terms of grateful acknowledgment for the kindness of his brother, though expressed most concisely. He then delivered on paper his perfect approbation of all that was done and his willingness to fulfill the engagements that had been made for him. He had never before supposed that Wickham be prevailed on to marry his daughter, it would be done with so little inconvenience to himself as by the present arrangement. He would scarcely be £10 a year the loser by the 100 that was to be paid them for what was her board and pocket allowance and the continual presents in money which passed to her through her mother's hands. Lydia's expenses had been very little within that sum. That it would be done with such trifling exertion on his side, too, was another very welcome surprise, for his chief wish at present was to have as little as trouble in the business as possible. When the first transports of rage, which had produced his activity in seeking her, were over, he naturally returned to all his former indolence. His letter was soon dispatched, for, though dilatory in undertaking business, he was quick in its execution. He begged to know further particulars of what he was indebted to his brother, but was too angry with Lydia to send any message to her. The good news quickly spread through the house and with proportionate speed through the neighborhood. It was borne in the latter with decent philosophy. To be sure, it would have been more of the advantage of conversation had Miss Lydia Bennet come upon the town, or as the happiest alternative when been secluded from the world in some distant farmhouse. But there was much to be talked of in marrying her, and the good-natured wishes for her well-being, which had proceeded before from all the spiteful old ladies in Meryton, lost but little of their spirit in this change of circumstances, because with such a husband, her misery was considered certain. So nobody expects her to be happily married, but at least she's married. Oh, I need to go back, y'all. I've been discussing. We should start a channel about Macbeth, the movie. My sociology teacher once told me that there are two types of people in this world: those who gain pleasure through hurting others, and others through hurting themselves. And I sort of agree with them. Are there not any people that just gain pleasure by being nice? Just two people, Llama? That's unfortunate. But I think, Haley, that's right. I think that people are hard on themselves, and they take comfort. That was kind of our well-being post today: 5 things that are annoying about you. You start to think about how to live with other people and how to be comfortable living with other people. Welcome back, Sid. Raising myself up. Yes, I think it's really important to not criticize ourselves. Most of my life, and it's just not a healthy, especially when you're a parent, then children, and you want your children to be confident. So, Lama, nice support. I agree. Julissa, Juliana, hello. So let's keep reading. It was a fortnight since Miss Bennet had been downstairs, but on this happy day she again took her seat at the head of her table, and in spirits oppressively high. No sentiment of shame gave a damp to her triumph. The marriage of a daughter, which had been the first object of her wishes since Jane was 16, was now on the point of accomplishment, and her thoughts and her words ran wholly on those attendants of elegant nuptials, fine muslins, new carriages, and servants. She was busily searching through the neighborhood for a proper situation for her daughter, and without knowing or considering what their income might be, rejected many as deficient in size and importance. We've got all these different cultures here. How important and how celebrated are marriages in your culture? I know in many Muslim cultures, North African cultures, Iranian cultures that I've been to, it's a huge deal. Indian cultures, huge deal, that it's multiple days wedding, and a big deal. One of my former students just got married this past weekend. I had COVID, so I didn't get to go. Um, I don't think weddings have the huge import in our Western culture anymore as it did probably in my teen years. I don't think girls, I don't think that's the focus of their childhood. Like, my wedding is going to be the most important thing. Maybe. I don't know. I'm curious to hear what your generation thinks about it. But at this time, a wedding culturally in the society, like the whole community was involved. It was a big deal. It was a big party. It was an excuse to celebrate. And so it would break the monotony of the day. So what do you think the importance of society and society's expectations are in these kinds of traditions? And what's happening in societies as we don't have such shared traditions? Will we be less unified as a people? Catherine, hello. I did not see you join us. Catherine Macias and Julissa. I love when you guys tell me what book you come to us from. Hay Park might do said if the Gouldings would quit it, or the great house at Stoke if the drawing room were larger, but Ashforth is too far off. I could not bear to have her 10 miles from me, and as for Purvis Lodge, the attics are dreadful. Her husband allowed her to talk on without interruption while the servants remained, but when they had withdrawn, he said to her, Mrs. Bennet, before you take any or all of these houses for your son and daughter, let us come to a right understanding. Into one house in this neighborhood they shall never have admittance. I will not encourage the impudence of either by receiving them at Longbourn. A long dispute followed this declaration, but Mr. Bennet was firm. It soon led to another, and Mrs. Bennet found with amazement and horror that her husband would not advance a guinea to buy clothes for his daughter. He protested that she should receive from him no mark of affection whatever on the occasion. Mrs. Bennet could hardly comprehend it, that his anger could be so carried to such a point of inconceivable resentment as to refuse his daughter a privilege without which her marriage would scarcely seem valid. Exceeded all that she could possibly believe. She was more alive to the disgrace which her want of new clothes must reflect on her daughter's nuptial than to any sense of shame at the eloping and living with Wickham a fortnight before they took place. So again, she's just forgotten all the negative, and she's like upset with her husband because he's punishing. I refuse to reward her for this behavior. So she still doesn't get it, our dear Mrs. Bennet. There's unity in diversity. I think that if we look up answers from a different perspective, we'll gain more that way. I love that. Their eyes were, hi, Diana. Their eyes were watching God. I haven't had anybody tell me they've read that recently. It's one of my favorite books. And The Kite Runner. I enjoyed The Kite Runner, but it's not on my favorite list. Came from reading The Crucible. Was in The Crucible. It is on my favorite list. And hello to Diana. So what do you think about Mr. Bennet? Do you think too little too late, or do you think it's far time that he stood up and said that we should not reward this behavior? Elizabeth was now most heartily sorry that she had, from the distress of the moment, been led to make Mr. Darcy acquainted with their fears for her sister. For since her marriage would so shortly give the proper termination to the elopement, they might hope to conceal its unfavorable beginning from all those who were not immediately on the spot. She had no fear of its spreading farther through his means. There were few people on whose secrecy she would have more confidently depended, but at the same time, there was no one whose knowledge of a sister's frailty would have mortified her so much. She wished Darcy didn't have to know, but he does know, and she knows he won't misuse it. Not, however, from any fear of disadvantage from it, individually to herself, for at any rate, there seemed a gulf impassable between them. Had Lydia's marriage been concluded on the most honorable terms, it was not to be supposed that Mr. Darcy would connect himself with a family, where to every other objection would now be added an alliance and relationship of the nearest kind with the man whom he so justly scorned. So she's like, well, there's no hope to be with Mr. Darcy now that my sister's married to this man that he hates. Sid, you have to go. Okay, bye. It's always good to see you. Talk to you on Discord. And thank you for always supporting Discord and getting us to build our group over there, because it gives us a chance to chat and get to know each other. You guys have a great evening. We've only got 2.5 more pages. Well, actually, 3 more pages to read. From a connection, she could not wonder that he would shrink. The wish of procuring her regard, which she had assured herself of his feeling in Derbyshire, could not in rational expectation survive such a blow as this. She was humbled. She was grieved. She repented, though she hardly knew of what. She became jealous of his esteem when she could no longer hope to be benefited by it. She wanted to hear of him when there seemed the least chance of gaining intelligence. She was convinced that she could have been happy with him when it was no longer likely they should meet. What a triumph for him, as she often thought. Could he know that the proposals which she had proudly spurned only 4 months ago would now have been gladly and greatly received? He was as generous, she doubted not, as the most generous of his sex. But while he was mortal, there must be a triumph. She began now to comprehend that he was exactly the man who, in disposition and talents, would most suit her. Too little, too late. She realizes now that she really would have liked him. Pride and prejudice. Pride comes before a fall, they say. His understanding and temper, though unlike her own, would have answered all her wishes. It was a union that must have been to the advantage of both. By her ease and liveliness, his mind might have been softened, his manners improved, and from his judgment, information, and knowledge of the world, she must have received benefit of greater importance. But no such happy marriage could now teach the admiring multitude what connubial felicity, married happiness, really was. A union of a different tendency, and precluding the possibility of the other, was soon to be formed in their family. How Wickham and Lydia were to be supported in tolerable independence she could not imagine, but how little of permanent happiness could belong to a couple who were only brought together because their passions were stronger than their virtue she could easily conjecture. Mr. Gardiner soon wrote again to his brother. To Mr. Bennet's acknowledgment he briefly replied, with assurances of his eagerness to promote the welfare of any of his family, and concluded with entreaties. Oh, that's Discord making that noise. So I'm on chapter 50 for read. Sorry, and it's almost to the end of it. 293 in my book. Okay, so I'm caught up. So somebody has messaged in Discord. I wonder what it is. I get so curious. Mr. Gardiner soon wrote again to his, and it says, the principal reason of his letter was to inform them that Mr. Wickham was resolved on quitting the militia. Mr. Wickham. It was greatly my wish that he should do so, he added, as soon as his marriage was fixed on, and I think you will agree with me in considering a removal from that corps as highly advisable, both on his account and my niece's. It is Mr. Wickham's intention to go into the regulars, and among his former friends there are still some who are able and willing to assist him in the army. He has a promise of an ensigncy, like a position in General So-and-so's regiment, now quartered in the north. It is an advantage to have it so far from this part of the kingdom. He promises fairly, and I hope among different people, where they may each have a character to preserve, they will both be more prudent. I have written to Colonel Forster to inform him of our present arrangements and to request that he will satisfy the various creditors of Mr. Wickham in and near Brighton with assurances of speedy payment, for which I have pledged myself. And will you give yourself the trouble of carrying similar assurances to his creditors in Meryton, of whom I shall subjoin a list according to his information. He has given in all his debts. I hope at least he has not deceived us. Hagerston has our directions, and all will be completed in a week. They will then join his regiment unless they are first invited to Longbourn, and I understand from Mrs. Gardiner that my niece is very desirous of seeing you all before she leaves the South. She is well and begs to be dutifully remembered to you and her mother, E. Gardiner. So there's their letter. I have enjoyed it too, Haley, and I shouldn't be paying attention to it. So the last part of this chapter, Mr. Bennet and his daughter sell all the advantages of Mr. Wickham's removal. So this is where we recap. Wickham had debts. He's getting them paid off. He's no longer going to be in the local military, the militia, because he's enrolled, and that's not what you call it. He's enlisted into the regulars up in the north. It's like a fresh start, a clean start. He can hopefully, now that he's had this bad situation behind him, he'll clean up his life. He's a married man now, and he'll do right. So their family's name is kind of restored, and the uncle is saying that if allowed, Lydia would like to come visit the family. But Mrs. Bennet was not so well pleased with it. Lydia's being settled in the north just when she expected most pleasure and pride in her company, for she had by no means given up her plan of their residing in Hertfordshire, was a severe disappointment. And besides, it was such a pity that Lydia should be taken from a regiment where she was acquainted with everybody and had so many favorites. She is so fond of Mrs. Forster, said she. It will be quite shocking to send her away. Mrs. Bennet just does not get it. And there are several of the young men, too, that she likes very much. The officers may not be so pleasant in General So-and-so's regiment. His daughter's request, for such it might be considered, of being admitted into her family again before she set off for the north, received at first an absolute negative. But Jane and Elizabeth, who agreed in wishing, for the sake of their sister's feelings and consequence, that she should be noticed on her marriage by her parents, urged him so earnestly, yet so rationally and so mildly, to receive her and her husband at Longbourn as soon as they were married, that he was prevailed on to think as they thought and act as they wished. So Elizabeth and Jane asked the dad to let her come home and have like a little reception for the wedding. And their mother had the satisfaction of knowing that she should be able to show her married daughter in the neighborhood before she was banished to the north. He sent his permission for them to come, and it was settled that as soon as the ceremony was over, they should proceed to Longbourn. Elizabeth was surprised, however, that Wickham should consent to such a scheme, and had she consulted only her own inclination, any meeting with him would have been the last object of her wishes. And that is the conclusion of 50, almost an hour, probably my longest read, but it really wasn't a read. I chatted a lot. I'm sorry for those of you that are trying to get through the book. I know that must be annoying. I can't help myself. I've been locked in with Corona for so long. Haley, I want to learn French. I've tried. I studied it in college and I know a good bit of it. I can carry on a decent not a decent conversation. I can get around. I can buy a ticket. I can go into a shop. I can order some food, but I'm really out of practice. Elizabeth Emanuel, you're so welcome. Catherine, you're also welcome. Fareed, you said it. So we should start. My daughter's taking French in her university class, but she never will speak to me with it. So we should start a channel on French and see how we do with it. Thanks, Mama. I appreciate that. I so do. Any language, really. That's, Haley, my whole life I've wanted to master a second language. And with Farsi, I was married for so long that I tried to learn it and teach it to my children. And at the time, I could understand a majority of it. And still, when I'm around my kid's stepmom, I can understand her in Farsi. It's amazing how much I remember. My Swedish, even though I studied it formally, I never really got the swing of it. My accent was always terrible. Arabic, I recognize a lot of words, especially in songs. Fahagat, Nancy Ashram sings, means, I think it's kind of like if only, or if I could. It's this beautiful song about the words I want to tell you. I want to tell you my feelings, but if I have to tell you my feelings, if you don't just understand my feelings, it's kind of pointless. Arabic songs are so ridiculously romantic. That's one of the reasons I want to learn. Korean there's so much Korean pop culture. There's a lot of people. I had a student that I taught English to, and she was a Korean teacher, and she had a lot of American students because of K-pop and all. Spanish is very useful down here because we're so close to Mexico. They speak Farsi. No, Farsi, that's how you spell it. Man Farsi kam mironam. I know a little Farsi. And again, my accents are always terrible in every language I try. Don't know any Japanese. Konnichiwa is hello, I think. I learned that in Girl Scouts. So are you studying it in school? I just don't think we do a good job in the United States of teaching foreign language. And I really regret that I have not mastered a second language. And Haley, I was so embarrassed when I was in China that I couldn't communicate at all in Chinese. Just set that goal and keep learning. It's mainly just practicing. I will look that, Lama. Lingoni French YouTube channel, Basic Way. I'm going to try that. That sounds super. Guys, we're an hour. I've taken up your time, and I appreciate you guys so much. I am going to get this hot sweater off and go drink some water because I'm really parched at this point. And don't forget Thursday, if you haven't joined Discord already, come join it so we can watch Pride and Prejudice together. We're not going to know the ending from the book, so we'll find it out in the movie. Nancy Ashram. Fareed, you know that one. Yeah. I would like to learn Japanese too, but my school doesn't have it. And you do have to take a language in college, unless you're in a science, but I had to in humanities. Start a read-along YouTube channel. She has done that. And she's doing Little Women, which is such a good read. Lama, we were just talking in Discord. Taking or talking? There are a lot of language learning channels on YouTube. I need to remember Lingoni, okay? I will look that up. I know if you guys don't have the same names, you have to let me know who you are when I come over there. All right. You know what I need to say? click on my little face in the corner and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Come join us on Discord if you are a nerd like us and you want to keep talking. I kind of drifted off there. I will read to you next time. So keep reading, and I'll see ya. See ya. Bye.